Friends, nostril is one such muscle which gets paralyzed in Bell's palsy, but it's the most ignored muscle when it comes to rehabilitation. Because think about it, nostril movements are not something that we care a lot about. It's in fact an involuntary action of the nose that happens whenever we sniff, whenever we smell, or whenever we breathe. We rarely focus on moving our nostril voluntarily. At the same time, if we talk about the brain map, which has different face area that is being stored, at this area also, the representation of the nostril is less compared to other facial expressions. Because this is a subtle movement that people do subconsciously and very less consciously. That's why doing practices to activate nostrils sometimes becomes tricky and challenging. And you will observe this, that a lot of people who suffer from Bell's palsy find it difficult to flare their nostril. At the same time, when this same Bell's palsy turns into synkinesis, at that time, the nostril area becomes stiff, pulling the lip corners and the upper lip region upward and outward direction. This is particularly because of the tension and spasm of one muscle which is near your nostril, which is called as Levator Labii Superioris Alae Nasi, often abbreviated as LLSA. This unique muscle is very close to your nostril and is responsible when we do sniffing action. And it is in very close alignment with your nasolace muscle, which basically flares the nose and moves this nostril in and out. Now, in order to work on this muscle, here are the 7 practices that you can do in order to improve the movements here. Let's get started. Number 1, and the most important part when it comes to retraining the facial muscle, is to get a proper sensory feedback or information. Now, what are the sensations that we have got? We have got a vision, we have got an auditory feedback system, we have got touch sensation, and we have got smell sensation. We are going to use all of these 4 sensory receptors to our advantage. So how do we do that? Let's first talk about vision. So, a daily practice of observing how a nostril moves in normal scenario and recording it in your mind by imagining the same movement helps to start off with training your nostril muscle. So, daily practice for 5 minutes observing nostril flare and then imagining this nostril flare. The next sensory receptor that we have got, apart from vision, is the smelling sensation. So, smelling different objects by blocking the good side of the nose and using the affected side. Just with this, you can further activate your sniffing muscle. Third sensory system that we have got is the auditory system. So, you can listen to this command and follow that command. So, command like sniff, sniff, sniff. Or else, flare the nose, flare the nose, flare the nose. When a therapist gives this command to you, you get an information that you need to work on this area. You need to focus on this area. And the more stronger this command gets, the more attention the brain puts on the nostril region. And it helps you to train your nostril muscle. So, work with a physiotherapist who is trained in neurorehabilitation and facial rehabilitation to use this auditory feedback to train your sniffing muscle. And if you don't have a therapist by your side, all you can do is record yourself, your audio saying sniff, sniff, sniff. Or else, flare the nose, flare the nose, flare the nose. Make this audio tape little more firm and authoritative. And then just try to listen to that, and then act according to it. Make sure when you're doing this practice, don't overforce your nostril muscle because it can further trigger synkinesis. We don't want synkinesis to come in place while you're doing this practice. The next one is your touch sensation. So, feeling the muscle on both the sides and using the finger to guide this nostril to move in the expected direction helps you to understand where this muscle needs to move and gives a very strong sensory information to your brain. Remember this, your brain needs good sensory information in order to act accordingly. That's why the more good sensory information that you give to your brain, the more better would be the movements that you will be able to create. So, do this 4 sensory feedback practice on a regular basis. That takes me to the next part, which is practice number 5. And here, what you have to do is, after doing all the imagination, all the sensory stimulation, use your hand and guide your muscle to move. Now, here you're going to do active assisted movement, which means you will try to do the movement at the same time your hand will guide your nostril to move in the direction where you want to move it. This way, you will be feeling the contraction and you will guide the contraction in the right direction with the help of the hand. Always remember, do this as gentle as possible. Do it only for 5 repetitions and not more than that, and pause whenever you feel the synkinesis is overpowering. That takes me to point number 6, and that is stretching of the nostril muscle. Sometimes, if your Bell's palsy is long-standing, your nostril muscle also gets stiff and tensed. That's why stretching is very important. So, stretch your nostril muscle by holding your nostril and pulling it downward and outward. This way, you will be able to stretch this muscle. Hold this for 10 counts and then gradually release. Repeat this process for 3 to 4 times and not more than that. And that takes me to the last and the 7th point, where you have to do the action as if you were doing in a real life. Now, what are the scenarios in which we use the nostril muscle in real life? It's breathing. It's smelling, isn't it? And at the same time, it's sniffing or else making a disgusting expression. So, do these practices without moving your lips. So, keep your lips sealed and then try to breathe in, breathe out. If you feel that the normal side is more active, you can block it and then do the same action. This way, you will be able to activate your nostril muscle. The second thing that you have to do is think of sniffing action and just try to sniff, or as if you were trying to smell something. And relax. The third practice that you can do here is think of a disgusting expression, but again, without moving your lips. So, seal your lips and think of a disgust. If you feel that the normal side is overpowering, block it and just try. And this way, you will be able to activate your nostril muscle. So friends, these were simple practices that you have to follow on your own. But remember, synkinesis is always a red flag, and that's why working with a therapist who understands synkinesis and who can help you to work on minimizing synkinesis while you retrain your facial muscle is the right strategy to go ahead. So, never do these practices without supervision. The purpose of this video is just to give you a basics guideline on how to work on this nostril muscle. It's always advisable to work under a professional. So, if you need any further help related to your facial rehabilitation for Bell's palsy or synkinesis, feel free to reach out to us. Book an evaluation session, based on which we will be able to guide you what are the next steps that you should follow. On that note, I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.